I'm Les Barnett, speaking for your 1960 Imperial. I'll admit I don't know too much about the Imperial, but I have a couple of gentlemen here who do. I'd like you to meet them, because I'm sure you're going to want to hear what they have to say. Let's hear from Mr. Ed Sampson first. Ed, I understand you're coordinating engineer for Imperial. Exactly what does that title mean?
Well, briefly, Les, my job is to find out what all the other Imperial engineers and stylists are up to, and why. Then I help coordinate their efforts to make sure we're all working toward common design objectives.
Sounds like you really ought to know this 1960 Imperial, Ed.
Well, like the back of my own hand. I have to.
Well, then, how about letting us in on some of the 60 Imperial highlights?
Be glad to. Well, let's take a look at the only new exterior in the luxury class. Every bit of sheet metal you see is all new, and the grille is new. The bumpers, front and rear, are new. In the 60 Imperial, our stylists have successfully achieved two basic goals: ultimate refinement, but without losing our highly acceptable Imperial identity. I think the front-end treatment is a good example of what I mean by refinement. Now, notice how we've moved away from last year's massive, heavy styling to a new, light, poised feeling.
The grille sure gives that effect, Ed.
The gull-wing front bumper helps, too. It's an unmistakable airborne shape that means lightness and grace to everyone. Now, for my money, this is the most beautiful profile that's ever been seen on an automobile.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. But suppose prospects ask questions about why.
Well, notice up front where the grille wraps around. See how it brings everything to a point at the tip of the front fender? Now, follow the single side molding back just above the sculptured line, and notice how the car seems to widen out above and below this line.
Yeah, the dart shape.
Exactly, Les. This Imperial is the most perfect example yet of what the dart shape can do to bring grace and beauty to a car profile.
The roof seems a little bit thinner than last year's.
Oh, it just looks thinner, Les. These new roof side panels give you the illusion of a thinner, lighter roof.
I suppose an Imperial customer can get contrasting paint in this area if he wishes.
Not only paint, he can get gleaming stainless steel right here also. They really dress up the roof. Take a look at the rear end treatment. First, notice the taillights. Each extends from the fin in an individual, smoothly fared-in housing.
Seem to make the fins look thinner, more aerodynamic.
Yeah, and they seem to lengthen out the car, too.
That little door under the trunk lid, Ed, that where you put the gas?
That's right. It folds down to expose the gas filler. And do you notice how the backup lights are mounted under the gull wing section of the rear bumper, so the light is directed down for better seeing?
So you have practicality along with refinement in the 60 Imperial styling. But let me ask a question. Ed, in coming up with all new styling, wasn't there a temptation to come up with more sweeping changes, to put the emphasis on change instead of improvement?
Not really, and I'll show you why. These are the results of yearly surveys we've made of owners who've just purchased a new Imperial or a new Cadillac. We asked them if they approve the exterior styling of their new cars. Now, you can see that 94%, or over 9 out of 10 Imperial owners, said they did. But less than 76%, or 8 out of 10 of the new Cadillac owners, said they approved of their new Cadillac's exterior styling.
Yeah, but a lot of people still bought 59 Cadillacs in spite of the styling.
Unfortunately true, Les, but the point is that in our Imperial, we've established a styling theme that has had remarkable acceptance with its owners. Actually, a greater degree of styling acceptance than any other Chrysler Corporation car enjoys.
I see. Well, a sharp salesman should be able to capitalize on that ready acceptance by making sure he includes a strong selling pitch on Imperial's exterior styling when he talks to a 60 Imperial prospect.
Not just the exteriors, Les. This new automatic swivel-out seat is an invitation to try out some of the most comfortable, convenient, and costly interiors you've ever seen.
I'll accept the invitation, because I'm always pretty interested in comfort, especially mine. Plenty of support for your legs. In fact, it's a very comfortable seat. What did you change in it?
Well, first of all, the seat cushions are designed to support your legs at a more natural angle. The seat springs are more resilient, so you get more uniform support from front to back, not just localized support at the base of your spine.
This seat back seems a lot more comfortable, too, Ed.
It ought to. There's up to 6 inches of foam rubber there, and no metal springs at all. Then, too, you have those high tower seats to give high support to your shoulders when you're behind the wheel. I've put in thousands of miles in these new Imperials as a driver and as a passenger, and I can assure you that the comfort you're enjoying now holds up hour after hour.
I see you've restyled the window lift buttons. Say, what are those extra 2 buttons on there for?
Those buttons control the power-operated vent windows, standard on the LeBaron series and optional on the others.
Makes sense. I suppose the vent windows are opened and closed more often than any other windows in a car.
That's right. And here's another place we thought of the driver. We've improved our Autopilot speed control so that once the driver has selected his speed and pushed the button, he doesn't have to reset the button every time he slows down. He just accelerates the car to his pre-selected speed, and the autopilot automatically locks again without pushing the button.
That should make it a lot more useful and handy in heavy highway traffic, even city traffic. Seems to me the driver has gotten a lot of attention from the designers.
You bet he has. There's even a special spot cooler just for the driver on air-conditioned cars. The driver can start enjoying the comfort of air conditioning within a minute or two after he starts the engine. He doesn't have to wait until the whole car cools down.
Drivers are going to like that new turn signal. No confusion about how it works.
Everything about the panel is designed to eliminate confusion and make it easier for the driver, Les. Those instruments are designed to give him the information he needs for safe, sure driving fast, so he can keep his eyes on the road, not only in the daytime, but at night as well. This is our new panelescent lighting. No glare, no shadows, just perfect instrument lighting that will actually outlast the life of the car. No competitive luxury class car will be able to offer it.
What about the trim story? I suppose that's where the costly part you mentioned comes in.
The trim materials we're using this year are costly, and they look it. Of course, fabrics and seat designs are all new. This is a shot of a Crown Southampton, so it has saddle grain leather bolsters. In the Crown sedan, the bolsters are a rich all-wool broadcloth. The Crown convertible, however, this year will have all genuine leather seats as standard equipment.
That was an extra cost option on the Crown convertible last year, wasn't it?
Yes, and all leather will still be extra cost on the other Crowns. The Custom and LeBaron follow their traditional pattern. Cloth with saddle grain vinyl bolsters on the Custom, all wool broadcloth for seats and bolsters on the LeBaron.
No question that every Imperial is going to have a lot of eye appeal. But I'll bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
That's true. But you know yourself, if we made no down-under changes, we'd still be a couple of years ahead of our luxury competition. So this year, we turned our engineers loose on refining what we've got, making it even better, improving its quality. For example, we've got heavier body metal in 2 important areas. In the front fenders to give more rigid feel to the front end, and in the door panels to give a solid quality sound when you slam the doors. Then there's a lot of extra bracing in the 60 Imperial body, in the floor pan, in the windshield and rear window posts, and a new pair of braces to give more support to the instrument panel.
Sounds like the 60 Imperial is a very solidly built automobile. Will prospects notice it in a demonstration ride?
I don't think they can help noticing it, especially if the salesman calls it to their attention. We've made some important changes in the front engine mounts. Twice as much live rubber in each mount cuts engine vibration to a point, well, where it's practically undetectable. We've made improvements in our total contact brakes that cut down on brake noise and vibration, extend the life of the brake assembly so owners get like-new performance longer, and make it easier to adjust the brakes more accurately.
In other words, a better brake in every way.
Yes, but that's not all. These new wheel covers aren't just ornamentation. They have tiny turbine vanes here so that as the wheel rotates, a powerful suction is created that draws cooling air over the brakes through these big ports in the wheel.
I see. Cool brakes, no brake fade, longer life.
That's about it, Les. In fact, our brake story is typical of all our other engineering improvements and styling changes. The emphasis is on refinement, making everything a little bit better. You know as well as I do that buyers in the luxury class are conservative. Not so impressed by big smashing changes as they are in finding all the little important details are just right.
I'll go along with that. And I think we'll all agree that you and your designers have certainly accomplished your objective of ultimate refinement without loss of that all-important Imperial identity. Thanks for giving us the rundown on the 1960 Imperial design story. Now I'd like to talk to Tom Huggins. Tom, you're chief inspector for Imperial, aren't you?
That's right, Les.
Well, how do you feel about this 60 Imperial? I mean, from a quality standpoint.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm convinced this 60 we're now building is the finest Imperial we've ever built. And there's no question in my mind that we're also building America's most carefully built car.
Wow, that takes in a lot of territory.
Okay, let's drive over to the Imperial Plant and I'll prove it. This is the home of Imperial, Les. And incidentally, only Imperials are built here. We're the only luxury class car that has its own exclusive plant. That means we're not rushed by other Chrysler divisions' production schedules. Here we can take our time to make sure each Imperial we build is right. That's an important part of our quality story, but there are other reasons, too. Let's go inside. Quality starts with a really good design. I know Ed covered most of the selling design features, but around here, we like this 60 Imperial because we're finding it's easy to build right. And I personally like it because it presents so few inspection problems that my inspectors can concentrate on the littlest details. Really fly-spec these cars. But no design can build itself to quality standards. For that, it takes people, special people. In fact, every person you see working on these Imperials is a hand-picked man or woman, a specialist and an expert.
Well, I'll sure agree that the guy who pushes the broom around here is an expert. Well, I've never seen a factory this clean. I'll bet I could eat right off the floor, except I'd be afraid of getting it messed up.
Well, I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Les, because we feel to build a quality car, we need a clean plant. And you're right about the broom pushers, except they don't push brooms. They ride giant vacuum cleaners to keep this plant just spotless.
Well, apparently they're some of the lucky ones, because I noticed there seem to be a surprising number of operations that are still done by hand. Isn't there some sort of tool those workmen could use to do that wet sanding operation?
Oh, sure, there are tools that we could get that would do the job twice as fast, but only half as well. That's why you see so much handwork being done on these Imperials, because in most cases, power-operated tools just will not give us a degree of quality we feel we must have. In fact, when you watch an operation such as these body sorter men are performing, patiently filling every exposed seam in the Imperial with lead, you come to realize that we're not operating a factory here. We're running one of the world's largest custom body shops, simply because of the tremendous amount of hand craftsmanship that goes into every Imperial.
I didn't know they still used lead to fill in seams, Tom. I thought they used some sort of metal putty instead.
Most car manufacturers do use putty, where they bother to fill in the seams at all. But in Imperial, we use lead, and in every exposed seam. It's slower, more costly, but it makes a more lasting seam, better-looking body, which is what we must have.
I see one of those fellows has a special badge. Is he a supervisor or inspector or something?
No, that special badge indicates he's an Imperial quality craftsman, a mark of special recognition for his ability. Wait a minute, I think I've got one in my pocket. Yeah, here it is. Let me read to you from the little folder that goes with each badge. Your department, working together as a team, is maintaining our reputation as a producer of fine quality automobiles built by expert craftsmen. In recognition of your efforts, the quality craftsmanship emblem is presented to you. Wear it with well-deserved pride with your personal identification badge. May it serve as a continuing reminder of our common objective to make Imperial the highest quality car built in America.
I take it this award isn't passed out to everyone.
Right. And around here, there's an awful lot of top-flight competition.
Well, Tom, having craftsmen like these here at Imperial should make your job of inspection a lot easier.
It lets us inspect a lot more things. go into a lot more detail than we could otherwise. We have 38 quality control stations for inspecting Imperial. Each station may involve several to several hundred individual inspections. This one we're looking at is part of Station 7, Critical Area Weld Inspection. This inspector is driving a wedge between those spot welds, trying to break them apart. If he succeeds, he not only will reject that floor pan and send it back for repair, but he'll also find out why those welds were defective and have it corrected immediately.
Seems like a pretty hard, slow way to check welds.
It is, Les, but it's the only sure way. Remember that body sorter operation we just watched? Well, this inspector is checking the finished seams. After it's painted, you won't know there's a seam anywhere in that car.
It goes from here to the paint ovens, then?
Oh, there's a lot more that has to be done. And it has to pass through 3 more quality control stations before it's painted and sent through the ovens. Over here is our final paint inspection station. Notice that these Imperial bodies are checked under natural and artificial light. Any defect in the finished surface, whether it's a blemish, a miss, orange peel, or sag, sends the body back for rework and reinspection. After painting, the bodies are trimmed. And here's where you see plenty of careful hand craftsmanship, Les. But just the same, we have 4 quality control stations just to check trim and make sure it meets Imperial standards. After the body is mounted on a chassis, it's sent through this water spray booth. Every Imperial runs under the high-pressure water jets. They hit it from every direction to make sure these bodies are tight.
Boy, this ought to be a nice, cool place to work.
Not if the inspector finds one of these bodies is a leaker. Then I can assure you it gets rather hot around here. But now let's skip over to the end of the line. Here's something you won't see in any other plant, Les. A 100% road test of every Imperial we build. This inspector is about to take the car over a prescribed course, checking the performance of every item over and over until he's satisfied. When he brings it back, it'll again be inspected to make sure the paint hasn't been chipped or the chrome scratched. After road testing, a certain percentage of the cars are sent through the water spray test again, just to make sure they're staying tight. If the cars have air conditioning, they're sent to a special hot room to make sure the cooling performance is okay. Only after all that do we put our final inspection okay on the Imperial and send it out to the dealer.
Well, Tom, I've never seen anything like you've just shown me. I suppose the only things that aren't inspected around here are the inspectors.
Well, I'm reluctant to contradict a guest, but we are inspected. Ever so often, a special team of engineers, known as quality control auditors, comes in here unannounced. They'll pull an Imperial out of stock and practically pick it to pieces, looking for things wrong.
I suppose if they do, they tell you about it.
Oh, no, they tell the general manager, and he tells us about it.
I think now I understand why you're able to call this 60 Imperial America's most carefully built car.
Well, I'm no salesman, Les, but if I were, I'd make sure every one of my Imperial prospects appreciates the unique conditions under which every Imperial is made, the amount of hand craftsmanship that goes into every Imperial, how carefully quality is controlled. When I got through with him, he'd know he's driving the best when he drives Imperial.
Well, that's good advice to pass along. And, Tom, I'd like to thank you for a very enlightening tour through your Imperial plant. Now let me take a minute to summarize for you. In exterior styling, the big point is that it's all new, with the styling emphasis on refinement and maintaining the Imperial identity. People like Imperial styling, and they'll especially like this 60 Imperial. Take advantage of this fact in your selling. In interior styling, the accent is on extra comfort and convenience. Softer seats with up to 6 inches of foam rubber in the seat backs. An improved version of the now famous Autopilot. Power-operated vent windows. All adding up to more of the qualities that your luxury class buyer wants and has a right to expect. Show them how this 60 Imperial is going to pamper them every minute they're in it. Engineering improvements include heavier sheet metal and more bracing throughout to give a stronger, more solid-feeling automobile. New engine mounts to cut vibration. Improved total contact air-cooled brakes for better all-around braking performance. Of course, there's more engineering refinements than these. Your data book will go into more detail. And let's not forget that exclusive Imperial quality story. To many of your prospects, this will be the real story, the one that nails them. Not just once, but year after year to your benefit. Let's take a last look. The most beautiful profile in America. And America's most carefully built car. Your 1960 Imperial.